Nothing could interrupt a game of Simon Says quicker than Grampy Fay starting Clyde, the 1957 Ford pickup, as the tribe scrambled to get into the rear bed before he took off. Sometimes the trip would only be a half a mile away to South Gardner to the parts store. Sometimes the trip was a 3-mile journey to another repair parts shop. This trip always involved stopping for donuts on the corner of Sand and West Street. And the trip, no matter how far it was, would interrupt the games we were playing, but the trip always was an experience of play as learning, play as creative process, play as engagement with the world. Do you remember these games? Red Rover, Come On Over, Red Light, Green Light, Hide and Seek, or Frozen Tag. These were the games that we might have to cease, but we never did stop our play and learning as a tribe. Grampy Fay used to say, I start up Clyde, the kids come out from every rock, nook, and cranny, and before I know it, there's this tribe in the truck. It was usually all 13 of us, minus the twins, who, though they played with us, who we had deemed at the age of 4, were far too young to be in the back of the truck. And as we would drive away, they, using their own distinctive, most untranslatable twin language, would express their dissatisfaction with the group. And off they would go to play by themselves till we returned. It was following one of these drive-offs that the police were waiting us when we returned with our 24 donuts. The house down the street was for sale, and we used to run by the house, all 15 of us, this included the twins, touch the for sale sign and yell to the boy who lived there, "Good riddance, we won't miss you." Really immature and silly territorial behavior, which is one of the negative effects of tribal belonging. But eventually we learned how to be our own tribe without demonizing others outside of our group, which is a positive learning. Anyway, when we got back and the police cruiser was waiting for us, the conversation went something like this. Grampy Fay to the police officer, "What's up, Tony?" And this was a town and time when every neighborhood had its own officer who knew everyone and was known in return. And Officer Tony looked at all of us and said, "I know you have been saying very mean things to Archie. It's not nice of any of you, not nice at all. But for taking down that for sale sign is a crime. And you can be found guilty of trespassing and stealing. So tell me," said Officer Tony, "who is responsible?" Well, honestly, we told Grampy Fay and Officer Tony we did not take down the sign. And Officer Tony put on his most stern face and said, "I want to know who did this, and you will go up and apologize, all of you as a group or the one who did this, but I am not going anywhere till I get that sign back and you apologize." Well, in the meantime, as we were all gathered around wondering and not knowing what to do because we didn't move the sign, the 4-year-old twins couldn't stop babbling. And finally their sister, who could sometimes interpret their conversations, asked them what they knew. And right then and there they began to gibber and talk to each other more frantically. And suddenly, hand in hand, they walked to the shed and got the sign where they had hidden it and told their sister they had taken it down because we wouldn't let them go in the truck with us. And then they proceeded, hand in hand, to march right up to the door and apologize to Mrs. Sussman. Now, Officer Tony and Grampy Fay watched this grand confession in amazement. And we, the tribe, made sure from then on out that the twins got up and got safely tucked in the bed of the truck. We learned from this play that the group effects and way the group acts one or more can affect the entire group reputation. And as a tribe, we had to wrestle with our influence that we had on one another and on the neighborhood. Now, that ability to be together in a tribe to play provided new ways of learning. Taking a trip in the back of Clyde would interrupt a game, but it would never, and it was apparent to me, would never interrupt the play, because we were being offered another type of play. The kind of play that brought us out beyond the boundaries of where we usually were and to learning new ways. Now, Diane Ackerman, author of Deep Play, offers this definition that helped me to begin to make sense of my experiences and learning by playing in tribe. She writes, "Deep play is a state of unself-conscious engagement with our surroundings. And secondly, it is an exalted zone of transcendence over time. And finally, it is a state of optimal creative capacity." When we played as a tribe, we were constantly engaging with our surroundings, and we were learning what are the limits, where are the boundaries, and what are the consequences if we go outside of the boundaries. We learned this lesson many times, but this story came to mind when thinking about tribe play as having rules and guidelines. We had a railroad track at the end of the road. We were told, do not go on the tracks, do not go near the trains. They are fast and deadly, and they run through the neighborhood with supplies at 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. Don't go up there. The boundaries were set, and of course, we violated them. And we would go to play near the tracks after school. One day, the whole tribe was there, 15 of us, because now the twins were among the gang. And one of the tribe, I'm not sure who, Bill, Brian maybe, thought it would be really, really cool to throw rocks at the containers as they were rapidly rolling by. He threw a rock. Uh-oh, it boomeranged right back, hit him in the forehead, knocked him to the ground. He really looked unconscious, and he began to bleed. Now, I was the official leader of the tribe, so it fell to me to do something, and I ordered everyone to move him away from the track, not leave him. I ran and got my mother, the nurse, whom I knew was home from work by that time. What had started as play and flirting with danger and testing our boundaries and experimenting and thrill-seeking had turned into a situation that meant confession, punishment, and consequences that required outside help. And as was typical of those type of learning situations, all the parents pulled together and all the tribe kids were rounded up and a lecture was laid upon us. Play as tribe sometimes meant learning some hard lessons and having to confess to behavior that was unhealthy for the entire group. And I think, and I know, that our adults recognize that as a tribe, playing together meant we were a unit, and we were coming together and coming up with ideas, and that group creativity was awakened in us, and that exploring the world and our surroundings was not just an individual approach, but a group approach. And that has solidified in me a real appreciation of the power of group, the strength of communities with communities, and that ever-present need to test my ideas out and my thoughts within a group that can offer me feedback. And I need others around me to help me become the best person I can be. Now, play as tribe offered a safety net, taught us how to settle differences. I was often the voice of final authority, but occasionally there would be an uprising reminding me that though I thought I was the boss, I was not the boss. Group play offered comfort and support too. When things were not good at home, or when a job loss or sickness had hit in the family, when tough times or emotional turmoil was within a home, We came together and supported one another, and we could escape for at least a little while by gathering for play. And when we got together, that group imagination could be engaged in, as we said to one another, what are we going to do today? And as I said, we learned freedom. We could go anywhere in the neighborhood, and we learned limits. There were limits that we just did not transcend, such as the admonition to not bother Mr. Ledbetter, who lived at the shack at the end of Tar Street. It was clearly explained to us, and we respected this, that Mr. Ledbetter had had a very difficult life, that his parents were mean and died when he was very young, that he was different, and that he didn't want to be bothered by the tribe playing around his home, but he wanted to be left alone because that was his choice, and we must respect that. And you know what? The tribe, when playing, never bothered Mr. Ledbetter. And that's another important lesson learned by playing with the tribe. It began really when we were told we were being mean to Archie Sussman, and that though we were a tribe, we couldn't be unkind to those who weren't in our tribe. And as our experiences with the larger world grew, we began to learn about in-groups and out-groups, and those who had been excluded. All 15 of us who were in that tribe became teachers, social workers, child care workers, counselors, police officers, minister, local politicians, each in their own way and through their own calling. That was developed in the tribal play. We engage in the world in ways to help others. And we also wrestled with the fact that we could have remained an insular, self-contained unit that kept others out, but instead we learned to become more welcoming. And our tribe expanded and grew not just in size, but in spirit of generosity. I remember an experience of being at Bent's Pond, an ice pond, when a game of capture the flag was suggested by all the people who gathered there, not just our tribe. And we all began to play together, but soon our tribe stopped playing because the game was beginning to exclude people, to make fun of those who couldn't skate as fast, and to belittle and to pick on others. That tribe, my tribe, without even saying anything out loud, took off our skates, left the game, left the pond, knowing we were going to walk home hugging and laughing and enjoying and playing together, no matter how well we could skate, and we would not abide people being picked on. Those writers from the UUA who put together this idea of play asked some important questions that I want to leave you with. What makes something play? Is it when you feel free from the burden of producing an outcome, or when creativity is involved? Is it when you lose time or extend past some boundary, or is it when you can just be yourself? And when I began to reflect on play and learning with my tribe, I began to grasp another way of looking at play. For me, it is a way to engage with the world and others, a way to reflect and discover really what matters, and involves not just my creativity, but a group commitment to building a place of authentic sharing and caring and being. And I hope you find South Church to be this place. And if something is missing, then let's create it together. May it be so.